Pac-Man is back. One of the greatest boxers of all time, Manny Pacquiao, back in the ring Saturday night. Originally scheduled to face Errol Spence Jr. for Spence's IBF and WBC welterweight titles. However, Spence was forced to withdraw from the fight due to a retinal tear in his left eye. Instead, Pacquiao will face this man going toe-to-toe with Yordenis Ugas for the WBA welterweight title. The 42-year-old Pacquiao owns a 62-7-2 record with 39 knockouts. He's an 8-division world champ. No boxer in history has won world titles in more weight classes than Pac-Man. Fighting for the first time in more than 2 years, so perhaps a little rusty. The 35-year-old Ugas owns a 26-4 record with 12 knockouts. He's the WBA super welterweight champ, making his first title defense. Welcome in CBS Sports combat analyst and co-host of Morning Combat, Brian Campbell. BC, you interviewed Pacquiao this week. What'd you take away from your conversation with him, and do you still consider him to be elite?
Look, it's hard not to when you look at when we saw him last. That was 2019. He made sort of a sneaky near run at Fighter of the Year after dispatching Adrian Broner and then taking that same WBA title that he's going to be fighting for from unbeaten Keith Thurman. A spectacular comeback at 40. Now he's 42, and obviously the questions surround, does he still have it? How could he still have it? Look, it's a marvel after a 26-year pro run that Pacquiao's still doing this at this level, but even more importantly, that he's retained his speed and explosion. He's always the smaller fighter, fighting up in weight above his natural frame, and talking to him, what you hear is the joy to be back. I've been asking him and his trainer, Freddie Roach, just the same. What's the secret sauce? How the heck are you still doing this? And they say certainly it's work ethic in the gym, the fact that he's really never out of the gym in between fights, but it's the passion to want to put in the work, to want to do this. Pacquiao also, let's be honest, a little politically motivated here. There's a lot of rumors he will be running for president of his native Philippines next year. It would look great coming into that election season, fresh off a big win when people, let's say because of his age, don't think he can do it. This is a guy whose legacy was secured a decade ago when he became the only 8-division world champion. Everything else he's doing now is just an incredibly thick and tasty amount of gravy on top of that meal.
Pac-Man fighting for the first time in more than 2 years, BC. How might the long layoff affect him?
It's certainly not a good thing. Let's be upfront and honest about that. Timing, right? Timing is the most important thing in boxing, and when you're not active, you lose that. But talking to Pacquiao, talking to Freddie Roach, as I mentioned, they're not afraid at all. Pacquiao specifically said, I've been boxing for 3 full decades, you know, at a very high level, pro and in a short amateur career before that. He's never really taken a break, hasn't had big, long injuries, haven't really had big, long layoffs. He said this was the first time he allowed his body and the nagging injuries that follow you to heal. And at his age, he says that was very important. Roach doubled up and basically said the same thing, more or less, saying, look, Pacquiao's playing basketball. He's in the gym. He may not have been fighting for 2 years, but along with his work as a senator and the political frame, this guy's been active and busy. I think, if anything, you have to watch early in this fight, whether it will take Pacquiao a while to feel comfortable, whether he has that timing back. And also, look, can he fight the full 3 minutes, the full 12 rounds? He did 2 years ago against Keith Thurman and shocked us all, which late 30s Manny was sort of showing him slow down a bit. 2 years off, I think you have to have a little bit of questions coming in whether he can be that same exact fighter.
Pacquiao originally scheduled to face Errol Spence Jr. for Spence's IBF and WBC welterweight titles. However, Spence forced to withdraw from the fight due to a retinal tear in his left eye. So Pacquiao now facing Yordenis Ugas for the WBA welterweight title. BC, how much of a downgrade is this going from Spence to Ugas, and what should we know about Ugas going into this fight?
Commercially, it is a big downgrade. Let's be honest. It's not the blockbuster summer event like Pacquiao Spence was. That's almost a crossroads potential passing of the torch fight. But let's not sleep, and the hardcore fans know this, on what Yordenis Ugas brings to the table. He's a sneaky good fighter. The thing is, he's going to have to be great to beat Manny Pacquiao. Ugas has had sort of those wins coming up the ladder that have been impressive against guys maybe he should have beaten. His best performance to date, though, may have come in a loss. It was 2019 against Sean Porter for the WBC title. I scored it for Ugas. Ugas was not credited with a 12th round knockdown that would have swayed it in his way. He lost a tight majority decision, but more importantly, he proved he can fight at this level. He's big for the division. He's got that Cuban amateur school background, so you know technically he's strong. Also, one important note, he's not afraid to fight on the inside behind his high guard, because defensively he's very slick and can maneuver. He's going to need all of that against Manny Pacquiao, but this is not the downgrade opponent from the standpoint of, oh, this is now an easy fight. If Manny Pacquiao is not the same guy guy from 2 years ago. If he's a considerable step down, this is a fight Yordenis Ugas can win and probably will. So it's still a very good and intriguing matchup when you put their styles in there against one another.
Well, the odd makers are making Pacquiao a heavy favorite at -360. How do you see this fight playing out, and could this be the last fight of Pacquiao's decorated career?
You know, I asked him that, and he's standing on the platform of one fight at a time. Let me see how I feel. Let me see how I look, so to speak. Freddie Roach has a big mouth in the corner. He says not only will Pacquiao win the presidency, he wants to come back and fight as president. So, look, there's going to be no shortage of options as long as Pacquiao wins or even looks good in defeat if he wants to keep doing this. And for anybody, fighting Manny Pacquiao is a giant money fight, right? So if he wants to stay busy, there's big fights for him. The question is he going to win this one? I think it comes down to what we've been talking about, the layoff. Can he still remarkably be that same guy? If he can look 80% of who he was against Keith Thurman 2 years ago, it's going to be a tough fight against Ugas, but it's one he can win. The thing that Manny Pacquiao does that you can't prepare for, even in old age, is he's explosive from awkward angles. He disguises his setups, and he darts in and out with 3, 4, 5-punch combinations. If you're not ready to bite down and be ready for the shots you don't see coming and be able to react to that and make adjustments, it's going to be a long night. If Pacquiao's his foot slower, like I mentioned, expect Ugas to pull out a decision. But if not, this is still a winnable fight for Manny Pacquiao. That's why he's a 3-1 favorite. Look for this one to go the distance, if so, because Ugas is tough. And also for Ugas, if he is not going to throw enough punches, which it sometimes has been a hindrance in his career, you're not going to beat Manny Pacquiao in Las Vegas with the home crowd cheering on the superstar. Believe that. So Ugas is going to have to show out at a level we've never seen before. The smart money's on Pacquiao.
Pacquiao's won 5 of his last 6 fights since losing to Floyd Mayweather Jr. in 2015. Brian Campbell breaking it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. BC, thanks. And for all things combat, check out Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. You can watch the series on YouTube. You can also listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Morning Combat. Download and subscribe today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.